there's a soul out there that, like we say, whatever, mind over matter. There's a spirit that can overcome just about anything. And so when we, tap into that power, when we get that right,
Mhm.
man, everything else in our life just goes so well for us. I want to give you a couple analogies just to, I guess, help kind of cement what I believe about and what I think is true about spiritual wellness. The first one.
Welcome back, friends, to the Erie Wellness Podcast, where we explore a wide range of different wellness topics, highlight the incredible local professionals right here in our community, and encourage you to advocate for your own health and well-being. This week, we're diving into a topic we've never covered before on the podcast, spiritual wellness. While we've had conversations about physical, mental, emotional, and financial health, I believe that spiritual wellness is another important piece to living a healthy and balanced life. Today, I'm joined by Jeff Lorimer, lead pastor of Orchard Community Church here in Erie. Jeff is a husband, dad, former Spanish teacher, and someone who brings joy and energy to the people around him. Whether faith has been a part of your life for years, you're curious about spirituality, or you're simply looking for more peace, purpose, and connection in your everyday life, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. Jeff, welcome to the Erie Wellness Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Lauren. And I know I've said this before, but genuinely, like, this is such an honor to, like, whatever, come and bring the spiritual health piece to your podcast. And so it's a privilege, it's an honor, and I just feel, yeah, just super grateful that you would include me in your amazing list of guests. So thanks so much for having me.
Of course. No, I'm very glad to have you on the podcast. You came recommended just honestly because I think of your energy and you're just so welcoming. So I'm looking forward to
Thanks.
our conversation today.
Thanks. Fun.
So before we jump into spiritual wellness, I'd love for you to
Mhm.
share a little bit about your story. You're a Colorado native, husband and dad, and your path wasn't really a traditional one. You were a Spanish teacher before becoming a pastor. So how did you end up making the transition to ministry, but also share, a little bit about those beginning steps as well?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Yeah, you said Colorado native. I grew up on the Western Slope. I mean, all growing up, I would say I had the spiritual gift of being the center of attention. And so I knew I always wanted to be like some like sort of teacher or some sort of whatever, creator or some sort of talker. And so I became a teacher, right out of high school. I went over to the University of Northern Colorado, studied there for a while, and then, yeah, met my wife there. And as we got married a couple years out of college, we were always going to be the Spanish teacher couple, but also in college, I would say Jesus really got a hold of my heart, and I had this group of amazingly contagious, awesome Christians around me in college. And so for the first few years right out of college, yeah, I was the Spanish teacher, but I also, like, I moonlit as a worship leader. I was singing at churches and just helping out with youth groups and stuff at churches. Yeah, I did that for a long time out of college, did Spanish teaching, and I loved it. Yeah, all across the Front Range, whether it was at like Ames Community College, and I don't know, we were out in Windsor for a while, and Kersey, if you ever heard of the bursting metropolis of Kersey, we were there for a while. But yeah, no, we did Spanish teaching for a while. We also did ministry for a while, but eventually, right around COVID, God called me into full-time ministry, and I'm really glad he did, because I don't know that I would have been a good teacher during COVID at all. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
God called me into ministry. It was one of those things where had a really cool opportunity to go to seminary. And yeah, I had a lot of people in my life saying, "Hey, Jeff, I think you need to go and consider being Pastor Jeff." And yeah, I prayed about it a lot. God made it really clear right around 2020. And I haven't looked back. Yes, for the last 6 years or so, been in full-time ministry, and it's been a wild ride, but it's been a lot of fun, and I've really liked it.
That's incredible. And I also,
Yeah.
too, you got the opportunity to teach Spanish over in, was it Mexico? So you got a little bit of,
Well, I didn't teach Spanish in Mexico. That's where they taught me Spanish. And man, I got learned
okay.
hard in Mexico. I'll say that. But yeah, no, I lived in Mexico for a couple seasons, and that was really fun being, yeah, doing some missions work down there, also studying abroad. And yeah, no, I absolutely, I've got a huge heart for Mexico. It's really funny, being from Colorado. You go down there, and the things they know in Mexico about Colorado are, of course, Las Montañas, mountains, and Casa Bonita, which is fun to
Mhm.
be from Colorado and say, "Oh yeah, I know all about whatever Casa Bonita," and yeah, so to be able to connect with them in that way. But yeah,
Mhm. And then how long have you been at Orchard Community Church?
Been at Orchard Community for the past 3 years. 3 years ago, God called us down here to be pastors, my wife and I, and we've just fallen in love with Erie. Erie is awesome, and I love that we've got a health and wellness podcast here in Erie. It just seems like there's so many great people here in Erie that are just really serious about becoming just the people that God designed them to be, whether that's health, wellness, spiritual wellness, whatever, mental health, physical health. We love Erie a lot, and we're just thrilled to be down here.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting all of your insights about spiritual wellness. Because, you're right. We talk a lot about physical, mental, and emotional health on the podcast. But, spiritual wellness is a huge part of those pillars. So why do you believe that spiritual wellness is an important part of overall well-being?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for asking that question. It's funny. This last week, we actually just preached on this. There's a proverb out there, an ancient saying from one of the wisest guys ever. His name was King Solomon, and King Solomon said, "Above all else, guard your spirit, guard your heart, for from it flows a wellspring of life." And what does that mean? That means that there's actually something beyond all the physical, the mental, the financial health. I didn't even know you mentioned. There's something even deeper within all of us. I believe it's a soul, it's a spirit, and I think if all of us were to be really honest with ourselves, we would say, I'm not just a bag of cells. I'm not just whatever the chemical reactions inside my brain. There's something deeper. There's consciousness there. There's a spirit. There's a soul. And when we evaluate our lives and we look at some of the things that come out of our mouth at times, some of the things that we do, some of the great decisions, or even worse, the bad decisions we make, what does that proverb says? That proverb says that all of that comes from something deep inside of us, our spirit. One of my favorite writers says that you are not a body, you are a soul that's in a body. And I believe that with all my heart, that's who we are as human beings. We are souls that are in our bodies, and things in our bodies happen to us. But there's a soul that is indomitable. That's a big word there's a soul out there that, we say, whatever, mind over matter. There's a spirit that can overcome just about anything. And so when we tap into that power, when we get that right, man, everything else in our life just goes so well for us. I want to give you a couple analogies just to, I guess, help kind of cement what I believe about and what I think is true about spiritual wellness. The first one is I remember I was at a youth group a long time ago, and this guy was talking about how what is it that comes out of your mouth? How do we know? Because sometimes, especially for me, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth till it actually happens, till it comes out, right? And he got this thing of toothpaste, and he's like, "Let me tell you what comes out of your mouth. What comes out of your mouth is what fills your heart." And then he squeezes the toothpaste, and this toothpaste splatters everywhere. And it's this is true for every human being, that out of our mouth, out of our the outcomes in our life, they actually come from something deep inside of us. And when we're squeezed, that's when those things that sometimes we don't necessarily like, that's when those things come out. And so taking care of our spirit is how we make sure that the bad things don't come out, that we actually put good stuff in our spirit, good stuff in our soul, so that we feed our soul, we take care of it, so that way when we are squeezed, when bad things happen, when the stress comes, when pressure comes, that good things come out of us. So one more analogy I'll give you. And I promise this is one of my longer answers. I like this one. This is one of my favorite questions that you were going to ask. So, when I got into ministry, I thought about what kind of heart did I want to have when I was making this move into ministry. And there's three kind of hearts, three kind of spirits, I think, that you can have. You can have, and this is crazy. This is the analogy. You can either have a carrot, you can have an egg, or you can have a coffee bean heart. You can have a carrot spirit, you can have an egg spirit, or you can have a coffee spirit. Let me tell you more.
I'm what one do I want?
I'll tell you. This is really fun. So when the heat and pressure rise, if you boil a carrot, what happens to the carrot? It becomes mushy and and soft, right? And flaccid, and all the things that you don't want. And I've seen people like this, that when heat and pressure rise, what happens in their spirit? They kind of become they don't take a stand for themselves. They become kind of impotent. They become kind of like a doormat. And I don't want that, especially in ministry where I'm at. But just as a person, I don't want when heat and pressure rise to wilt under the pressure, right? But then I see other people that are kind of on the other side of the spectrum, where they've got this thick, impermeable shell, right? And that's the egg. And some people become hard-hearted. When the heat and the pressure rise, their spirit becomes hard and cold and distant. And you don't want that either. What do you want to be? You want to be a coffee bean, Lauren, is what you want to be. And everyone loves coffee, right? Everyone loves just like what coffee does to water. When heat and pressure rise, when you boil coffee beans, what happens? Like it becomes this transformative substance that transforms all of its surroundings. And so I come and I say all that because like that's the kind of spirit I want to have. I want to have a coffee bean spirit that when bad things happen in my life, when the heat rises, when the pressure rises, when stress comes, that what's squeezed and what comes out of me is actually transformative to the people around me, and it transforms it into something life-giving like coffee. So that's what I have to say about the spirit and why we need to take care of our spirits. Because if not, like, yeah, I think we can go down whatever the carrot or the egg road, but we don't want that. We want coffee bean spirits.
Well, and I think we all can relate that when we're in our element, like when we feel really good about the things in our lives or what we're doing or we're serving people well, like you just feel this. I don't even know how to explain it, but you just feel like you're just in this new element of yourself. Like you can accomplish anything you want to do. Like the world is working with you, just like all the things. So, and I think we all want to be in that place.
Yep. It's called alignment. And that's the thing is like, if you're more than just a mind and a body, you're a spirit and you get all those things aligned, and man, when they're all in alignment, yeah, you just watch out, world, like amazing things happen.
Well, and I like your coffee analogy. I mean, I'm a coffee drinker. So when it comes best, like I want to smell the coffee. You know what I mean? Like I want to be like I'm in a coffee shop and smelling the roses and all the things. So
yeah, well, and I think that's like how God designed us. He wants us to be like change agents in the world around us, but it doesn't happen if you don't do the hard work. And hard work, it's hard work, taking care of your spirit, it's hard work. It requires discipline. But when you do the work to take care of your spirit, man, like things get in alignment. You feel right, you do right, and you end up living the right kind of life that you want to live. So
absolutely. So many people have heard the phrase fruits of the spirit, but may not know like what it means. Can you explain what the fruits of the spirit are? And when you look at our culture today, what are some of the biggest things getting in the way of developing those qualities in our lives?
Yeah. It's funny being in church and being around it. We say fruits of the spirit all the time. That's one of those Christianese words that you may not have heard, or maybe you've heard it. You're like, what does that mean? I'll define it. And I think it's really important because like our church is called Orchard Community. And like, how do you measure a good orchard? You measure it by good fruits. Like what does an orchard produce? And so like, when you talk about the fruits of your spirit, like to come back to our spirit conversation, like the fruits of your spirit is like, if your spirit is in alignment, then like you're going to produce good fruits in your life. And so what are the fruits of the spirit? They're listed for us in Galatians 5. If you want to go look it up, you can look it up. Galatians 5, but it says the fruits of the spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And those are all things that like we want to define our lives. Like we want to be defined as like, I want people to say, yeah, that's a self-control. That's a joy-filled guy. Like that dude has got peace. Like those are things we want to describe us. But if we're honest with ourselves and we look at like what are the fruits of our spirit and we look at kind of the outcomes on the other side, like what do we see? Do we always see joy? No. Sometimes we see I guess like maybe like impatience instead of patience. That's one of the fruits of the spirit. Sometimes we're kind of short with our loved ones and we don't want to be like short with our loved ones. So like what's feeding our spirit? Do we need to like maybe do some heart work? Do we need to look at like what is our heart planted in? What's our soil? What kind of nourishment are we feeding our spirit at all? Because if not, then it comes out in things like anxiety. It comes out in things like, I don't know, stress. It comes out in things like a scarcity mentality, like, oh, I don't get enough attention, so I'm going to have these attention seeking behaviors. Like, and we don't want to be defined by those things. We want to be defined by love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Those are the kind of things we wanted to be defined by. But those fruits don't come from like external forces. Like you can't just put behaviors on it. You can't just like buy a plan, buy a subscription and produce good fruits. Those things come from inside. They come from our spirit. And that's the thing is like taking care of our spiritual health is so key to actually producing those things. Those things don't just come out because like we put enough rules and regulations. That's the thing is people like, that's what I think people look at religion as, is just a whole bunch of rules and regulations and do this, do this, do this. But like rules don't change people. Like a heart change is what changes people. Like having your heart changed and not having a whole bunch of external rules and religion and routines and whatnot. What actually does it is like taking care of your spirit. And that's where those good things will come from. So that's at least that's what we're all about at our church. Is we're going to see good fruits come out. We got to take care of the soil of our heart, heart work. It's good work.
And I love that you said that, like, you can't buy it. It's not like it's an app that you can go out and buy. Like, it comes from internal. And I think a lot of times society, like, we want to just be able to buy something, or like, oh, I think that if I buy this, then I'm going to be more satisfied. Or I think if I buy this, like, and it's just like, no, it has to really come from within. So,
It does. It does. And it's hard work to like actually sit down and listen to yourself, but like cuz I get it. It's easier to scroll and it's easier to watch an ad that tells me what I need to buy because I'm deficient in this one thing. And we get in these like loops that we're like, "Oh, if I just get this or if I just do this or if I just scroll a little bit longer." But like no, to remove ourselves from the negative feedback loop and to like actually tap into like who am I? What does God say about me? Who do I want to be? Like actually having those kind of hard conversations with ourselves and just taking the time to think about those things, man, like you get that right, everything else goes right in your life.
what would you say are some of the things that you commonly see, at least within your church, of people that are like struggling, and what's attacking their fruit?
Okay, yeah, well, the one I mentioned a little bit earlier was like doom scrolling. Oh my goodness, like how many times do I see people doom scrolling that are just like they spend hours and hours looking on their phone or whatever social media, and like though there's good things on there, it's so few and so far between that like I just see people that are just kind of like they're looking for something that they're looking for social media to fill something that only God can fill in their heart and soul. They're looking for social media to fill the God-shaped hole in their heart. Or some of the other common things I see is a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of worry about work. And that's one of those things where we recognize that like it isn't work that defines us, but it's what God says about us that defines us. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, addictions are a big one. We have a lot of like addiction groups at our church. We have a Narcotics Anonymous. We have a Sexaholics Anonymous. We have a few different anonymous groups that meet at our church because there's so many addictions because we try to fill, again, that God-shaped hole in our heart with, whatever, a substance. And so, I mean, and everyone's got them. Everyone's got their things. I've got my things. I usually start off most messages on Sunday with, hey, this is what I was struggling with this week. We've all got them. But I mean, like, that's what I think is beautiful about our community. That's what I think is beautiful about Christianity and just even a church is you can come together and you can say, hey, you can take the mask off. You can say, this is who I am. This is what I'm struggling with. And you can actually like see that other people have like found victory and they can like speak into that. And it's really cool. It's really beautiful when you get a whole community that's kind of pointing towards taking care of our spirit and, whatever, fixing it. You find that like change actually happens and things actually do get changed. It's really cool.
No, I agree. So just like we need food, movement, and sleep to stay physically healthy, what are some practical ways that people can strengthen and nourish their spiritual wellness in everyday life?
Okay. Yes, there are practical things we can do. It's funny, I've been talking a lot about heart work and I'm kind of nebulous, but there are practical things. I think one of the best things you can do is just find a group. Everyone looks for like a what to solve their problems. Oh, if I can find a what to solve my problems, but usually the solution is a who or two. That's like usually the solution to your problems. I point, first to a relationship with Jesus. That's the first one, but like finding a relationship with other good, like people that are kind of like going in the same direction. Like if you're looking to get your spirit aligned, find a couple other people who are looking to get aligned. That's a good practical step, is like just finding those people and getting together with them. I know like Lauren, you get together with like the Spears every once in a while, and like and when you walk away from those conversations, like, I feel more aligned. I feel better because like I found people who are just like wanting to help me go in the right direction. So I think like being really like cognizant of like who you're hanging out with. I think that's a good practical thing you can do. I think you can go to a church, join church. I love our church. Join a small group, join a Bible study. There's lots of cool things that we do. But just like finding those groups that you can go and be a part of, I think is really key. A lot of people in our church will swear by just a morning time where they don't like start their day with their phone. They start their day with like a Bible, or they start their day with just praying. My wife, every Saturday, she starts it on a hammock, and like that's her spiritual practical rhythm that gets her heart aligned for a good Saturday. So I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but it's like it's good timeless stuff. It's timeless wisdom for our time and day, which is like, find the practical rhythm that's going to help you like get your heart in alignment with God and with yourself. If you have peace with God, you'll have peace with yourself, and you'll have more peace with others.
No, I love Erie in the summer in particular. So we're recording this in the summer. And I like one of my routines for my spiritual wellness is going on a walk with our dog in the morning and then coming back
Beautiful.
and like journaling, and I have my books and all the things. But it's
Yes.
like one of my sacred times and I love it. And
Hmm.
like it's just, and summer is almost like it seems like the perfect time to start it because the weather is gorgeous, birds are chirping, and I
Yeah.
don't know, it's
Well,
just
and I think you're right on. And I love the fact that you said the word sacred. Like when you find those rhythms, those are sacred. That's a big deal. It's holy. It's untouchable. Like, no, you cannot talk to me till I've had my coffee with Jesus. No, you cannot
Mhm.
come and like whatever, get in my Facebook until like I've gone on my walk with my puppy. Like, and I would say like to your audience, find what those sacred rhythms are and protect them with all with all you've got, because you
Mhm.
find those rhythms, man, like, yeah, you'll find alignment, you'll find the healthy spirit that you need.
Right. And even, morning doesn't work for you because like sometimes morning can be
Yeah,
chaotic for families. Like kids are hungry, all the things, but it's like, well, then do it after, after bed. Go sit out on the
sure.
patio or whatever. Go walk around and check your mail and have that be your sacred moment.
Sure.
So
Or find the siesta. There's the Spanish teacher in me. Do it in the afternoon. Go and find like your hour from 1 to 2 p.m. Like, you know what? I'm going to have a 9-hour workday, but that because I'm going to take that hour in the middle of my day to just like connect with Jesus, connect with myself, like to just find peace in the middle of the day. So even, yeah, you can even find it at noon, right? Take your siesta.
hmm hmm what do you, for people who are like, I don't even know where to start. Like,
Mm.
what do you tell them?
Uh, Start
Or like,
talking.
that
That's the
sounds
first thing.
awkward. Or like, I'm just going to sit by
Yes.
myself.
Yeah, well, if you don't like sitting by yourself, you're not alone, right? Well, you are alone, but you're not alone in that.
hmm
Yeah, what would I say? I would say like the first thing you can do, and maybe this is just like the Spanish teacher in me. I would always tell people, like, I always tell my students, like, habla, like just talk, just say something. So first thing I'd say is start talking it out with some people around you that you trust. Find your trusted few, one or two. Start talking about like, hey, I need this, or I'm feeling this thing that I need to go do. And like, I think you'll find that they have really good advice. Yeah, I would say start talking about it. I mean, I believe really strongly in a church. That's why I've committed my life to like whatever building a church, and building the church that I think God's called us to. So I think a church is a great place to start. I know, yeah, churches, I'll say this right now, you'll notice like I'm not wearing the cloth. I'm not the man of the cloth that like I think a lot of people have like an idea that when they walk into church that like whatever, they'll wash their hands and they'll burn their whatever, like God doesn't want a sinner like me, or like the lightning's going to strike them as soon as they walk into church. That's not how church is anymore. Like maybe once upon a time you'd have all the whatever, the curmudgeons and the church ladies whatever sneering at you in the back, but that's just not how church is. And I know a lot of the pastors in town, we all get together. Like, there's a lot of really good communities out there that just would love to come and walk alongside you wherever you're at. So I know like
hmm
Calvary, Impact, Rock, there's a couple new ones, Redemption, Bold, all these pastors, they're just like, they're committed to just seeing people live out the best life that God has designed them to live out. And like, we don't want to get in the way. So come as you are, take the next step of like getting involved in a church or talking with one or two others. Try like even a small group. A lot of churches have groups, so you can try that. Or like, I don't know, our church is doing line dancing right on Thursdays at the farmers market. So like, I mean, it can even just be like, I'll put on my cowboy boots and go and dance my troubles away.
hmm
Like find that one or two things that you can take that next step. And I think you'll find that you'll be blessed if you do.
Right. And it's not like you have to share much, like it's not like people are gonna be like
Oh.
immediately like, okay, tell me your whole life story. It's like, no, just go there, be present and
Yes. Yeah,
enjoy
let's
yourself.
hear everyone's deepest darkest sin. No,
hmm
like you like, and well, I wouldn't even advocate for that. Like your first like months, years in a community, don't just like let your guard down. Make sure you can trust the people, that are around you. Do be wise about it. But yeah, no, there's no expectation to like, it's not an AA meeting that everyone's gonna have to get up and say when's the last time they whatever doom scroll or whatever, when's the last time you yelled at your kids. No. Like the churches are safe places is what I would say. And if it isn't safe, then get out and run. But most churches that I know and the pastors that I meet with here in Erie, we have an amazing group of pastors that meets. If you guys didn't know, if your audience doesn't know, there's an amazing group of pastors that meets every once a month on Thursday, the first Thursday of every month, and just prays for Erie. We love this city, and like so many of the pastors from our town attend that, and they just like they love this town, and the intentions are good there. The intentions
Mhm.
are really good. So.
I love
So
that.
just
I
try
didn't
it.
know that you
Yeah.
guys get together and pray together. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we do a lot of cool things in our church. That's one of those things that I just absolutely love. Yeah, it's fun. got the pastors that are in there the first Thursday of the month. We got the Chamber of Commerce in there. We've got Girl Scouts in there. We got line dancing in there. We got so many fun things that are happening in that facility. I just feel blessed that we can use our church there, which, by the way, for your audience, we're right across from the old mine. That's where Old Orchard Community is. We're right across from old mine there in downtown Erie. So Moffat and Briggs, and it's really cool, all the cool things that happen in that space.
Yeah, hopefully just knowing that will give you people a visual of like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that's
Oh yeah,
at.
it's that weird
Comfort,
adobe building across from old mine. Yeah, it's that weird building. Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah, that's us.
So what would you say? I often I'll hear people say, well, they're spiritual, but they're not religious. So what do you think about that? And how would you respond to someone who wants a deeper spiritual life, but feels disconnected from the church?
I get it. Like, I'll say that right now, because I went to church a couple times growing up. I didn't necessarily grow up in a home that like went to church a lot. I grew up in a spiritual but not religious home. And the times that I like had an experience with religion, especially early on, it was icky. And I totally get like religion, routines, dogma. That just kind of like, it can really hurt at times. You know, there can be a lot of church hurt, and there can be a lot of expectations and just like stuff put on you that you don't want. So I get that. That's the first thing I'd say to someone who said they're spiritual but not religious. But then I think I would just ask, like, so like where do you want to go with that? Like, is what you're doing working out for you? I think that'd probably be my first question. Like, how is that working out for you? The whole just being spiritual but not religious. And I think the thing that I've noticed, at least pastoring here in Erie, is that, you know, spiritual but not religious, it isn't actually working out all that well for a lot of people. This whole idea of like, well, I'll seek God when I want to, you know, and I get my dog out every once in a while, I can like seek God. But like, I think what I found is when you put a little bit of discipline to your spirituality, when you put a little bit of accountability, and honestly just getting involved in a community, there's automatic accountability. Because like, you know, people are like, well, I want you to like grow up into who God wants you to be, so you got to show up, right? And so there's automatic accountability in community, like, hey, you showing up? Are you coming to the thing tonight? Like, so I think the first thing I would ask is like, if it's not working out for you, like, would you consider like finding a community, finding a who or two, finding a group or two that you could be a part of, that would really help you get aligned and help you find that kind of accountability. So I get it. I really do. Like, religion, and it's funny, a lot of people will come, you know, to Colorado from out of state, and they'll be like, oh, I've heard Colorado's really unchurched. I'm like, Colorado is de-churched. Like, we've tried church, and church has broken a lot of our hearts, that whole religion thing. So I get it. But like, beyond like just being spiritual, like, what do you want it to do for you? Because if it's not working out for you, like, maybe it's time to like try taking another step further into that, or inviting another who or two into it, trying some structure, some routine. You know, if you actually, if we go back to the tree analogy, you know, of like wanting to grow good fruit, like inviting some people in, or even just like taking care of the soil, like there's going to be some disciplines there, and there's going to be a little bit of work that you might have to do, but it's good work and it'll produce good fruit, I believe. So that's what I'd say. Yeah.
And, you know, we always want to be growing, right? Like, you know, and what's that saying? Like you're, what is it? Like, you're the fruit of the like 5 people that you surround yourself with, or what's that saying? But like, you know, so
in Spanish, it's dime con quien andas y yo te diré quién eres. Like, you tell me with whom you roll and I'll tell you who you are. Or like in our church, we say, you can't like soar with eagles if you're running around with turkeys. You know what I mean? Like, you just, you show me your top 5 friends, and I'll show you who you're going to become, right? Your friends, more than just about anything, your communities, just about more than anything, is going to determine the direction of your life than just about anything else.
We're going to take a quick break from today's episode to hear a word from one of our sponsors. Additional support for today's episode comes from Bridge Refill Market, Erie's local refill shop, helping families reduce waste one refill at a time. As of May 2026, the community has helped save over 28,440 containers from the landfill through refills at the shop, from laundry detergent and dish soap to organic bulk foods and personal care products. You can bring your own containers and refill only what you need. Learn more at bridgerefill.com. Now let's get back to today's conversation. Okay, so before we started recording, I was even talking about how I felt like the whole idea of the podcast was like a God-inspired idea for me. So for people who are like, is it God? Is it me just thinking? Like, how do I hear God's voice and know that it's really him? and not just my own thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. Is it God? Is it just me? One of the things I had this pastor friend of mine who would always ask, is it God or is it just some bad green chili? Like, what is it actually that's like, what's this feeling stirring inside of me? Firstly, I'll say that's a really human thing. I would caution you if there's any pastors or religious leaders in your life that are like, oh, I know exactly when God's speaking to me and God told me to do this. I'd say, watch out. Like, that's scary to me. It's a very human thing to be asking. And I think that's actually a good thing that we're like asking God, is this like something you might be leading me to? I think that's natural. And I think that's good. So how can you distinguish, like, is it actually God's voice or is it just yourself? Well, here's what I would say. There's a few really, I think, cool tools that like God has given us. Firstly, one of the things we're going to do every single Sunday at our church is we open up a Bible because, we believe that God has spoken already through that. And so that's one of the first things is like, if we look at what our Bible is saying, and it's like, oh yeah, God, I feel this feeling to like help the poor. And you read your Bible and it says help the poor. It's like, that's probably a good sign. Like you should probably go help poor people. Right. Another thing you can do is, I think prayer is a big deal. And what is prayer really? It's sitting down, quiet, turning the phone over or whatever, getting quiet before God and just kind of like doing that introspection. I think that's really important. It's easy, especially for like guys like me. I'm kind of like a ready, fire, aim person, instead of ready, aim, fire. And I'm just like ready to go, but actually slowing down, I think is really important for a lot of us. I think having a community is also, you're going to hear me talk about it all the time, but like, if you're feeling that God urge on you to find your whatever 2 or 3, trusted friends and say, hey, I'm feeling like this is something God might be leading me to. God might be leading me to whatever, trying a church. God might be leading me to, I don't know, start a business. God might be leading me to start a new routine or regimen or some sort of thing to actually talk to people. Cause like you'll find, especially if you've got a few good friends, a few good community, they'll say, no, I don't think God is calling you to whatever, become a drug cartel. Like, I don't think God's calling you to that, nor do I think he's calling you to do these other things. But like, if you have a few good friends, they'll say, yeah, no, I think God is calling you to do that. I think you'd be really good at that. So finding people that'll speak life into you is a big part. So along with, your Bible, slowing down with prayer, finding a good community. I would say like the very last thing, and I definitely put this at the end of the list, is to like look at those kind of like those coincidences, those circumstances that like you're like, okay, that's got to be providence. That's more than just a coincidence. Like I think about Lauren when we were getting down to sit down and we were talking at Fox Dog. And I was like, well, I don't know what direction this podcast should really go. And then there's this picture of a tree over there. And I'm like, oh, I was thinking maybe that could be something we talk about as trees. I was thinking maybe we would talk about fruits. Maybe we would talk about, and like seeing that little circumstantial evidence, I'd say like hang on to those things. Cause I do think like God works in mysterious ways. And sometimes he does work through, whatever pictures and coincidences and circumstances. So I think it's I know I've said a lot, but it's really look at the whole picture. Like, does God's word like agree with it? Does your spirit agree with it? Do the people around you kind of agree with it? And then do you see those little 1 or 2 things that you're like, oh, I saw this in a dream. I saw this in a sunset. I saw this in whatever, the way my coffee was stirring the other day. This is where God is leading me. You see all those things kind of get in alignment. I think you can be really confident that God is leading you in that direction. So that's what I have to say about that. I understand it. It's a good human thing to wrestle with. And I always worry about the people that don't wrestle with it. The people that are just like playing the God card. No, that's scary to me. So don't be that person is what I would say.
And like, I mean, the biggest thing in my opinion of what you said is like, you have to be quiet because there's going to be so many distractions. So in order to even just evaluate it, like you do have to be quiet and think about, okay, well, there was this, and then there was this, and then there was this. And it's like, that was a lot of things pointing me in that one direction, but I can't evaluate that until I actually sit down and like think about the big picture of what I've just seen or what has been calling me. So,
well, heck, you even mentioned like whatever, after you're walking your dog, you'll go and you'll journal. Like, that's a great thing to like actually just list it out. Like, hey, these are the things. And if you find that the list is wanting, you're like, oh, maybe it really was just a bad burrito. If there's only like 2 things that are pointing you to like actually go and take this next step in a certain direction, maybe it wasn't actually of God. But like when you write it all down, you're like, okay, this is, the evidence is all there. There's 3 or 4 things that are just like loud and clear. I think you can walk in confidence knowing that God's behind you in that, especially if your spirit's there and his like word like aligns with it, go for it, Yeah, but it's not like, I'll say it's not like got like has anything in the Bible about like a podcast, does he? He didn't say anything like, hey, when you're thinking about starting a podcast, do this. No, like, no, I would say you really have to kind of just like measure that. You can look through some of the principles there, but like, I mean, if your goal is like, Lauren, for your goal was like bringing health and wellness to people, isn't that like what God wants to do? Doesn't he want like people to live healthy, happy lives? Like, isn't that what Jesus like wants us to like wants for us? So I think you're right on. Look at those principles, God's word, look at the people around you have to say, and you'll find that like you can walk in confidence knowing that God's got your back.
And one thing is it's not like it's going to just like some things fall in your lap, but a lot of things don't. Like you still have to pursue things. You still have to give effort for things to be successful. It's not like, oh yeah, that was a God inspired idea, so it's just going to like work out just because it's going to work out. No, it's like,
no, you have to work for it.
Work at it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is like, and I think it's so powerful that Lauren, you would go and you'd write it down. I mean, I've seen this in my own life. I write down the things, and then like when the trials and tribulations come, when the hard times come, you can go back and you can look at that list like, oh yeah, I read this thing and I prayed about it, and then I had my friend say this thing, and I wrote down what my friend said, and I saw these 2 or 3 things, and you look at that whole list, you're like, yeah, I can face the hard times, the obstacles, I can face the trials and tribulations because I know God's called me to it. Yep.
So we're both parents and we want the best for our children. So as a dad, how do you think about helping your children develop their own spiritual foundation in today's world?
Yeah. How do I think about that? Well, I mean, there's a few things that we do in our family. I just kind of invite my kids into some of our rhythms, like you mentioned, like the rhythms that happen like before you go to bed. Like, so what do we do with our kids? We'll read a story, usually from the Bible. We'll read that. We'll pray together. I invite them into that. We'll sing together. I take my kids to church. I think they have a blast. That's their favorite hour of the entire week is going to church. And so that's one of the things that I've found is a really good thing. I don't feel like I'm brainwashing my kids when I take them to church. And I know maybe whenever you're like, that's easy for you to say, you're a pastor, but like at the same time, I feel like they enjoy it. They're learning a lot. They're having fun. They're making good friends. I just think getting them around that environment has been really, really healthy for them to just kind of figure out what their own spirit has to say, what their own like feelings are. It's helped them to measure their own, like whatever the fruits of their own spirit. They're like, oh, I'm not being very patient. And I'm like, you're 3. Why are you saying the word patient? You know what I mean? So it's cool. I would say to see that in your kids when you get them around the right, when you get them around the right people, when you get them in the right circles, and then when you have the right conversations. And for us, it's every night before we go to bed, and we pray, and then I leave the room and I say, Jesus is always with you. And like, what do I see in them? I see them like they have security because they know that like they have a God that loves them. And so because they have security, they don't act insecure, so it's really cool. I think faith has been a really big benefit and a boon to my kids, and it's helped them to just become even better people. I love my kids. I have 2 daughters, Maya and Natalia. They're 7 and 10 now, and they're awesome. We do have a couple of cool programs. I know that this is going to air right before our kids camp. So we have Erie Kids Camp, and you can check out information on our website, Orchard Community Church, orchardcommunity.church/Erie Kids Camp. We've got this amazing kids camp coming up here, and so they have a lot of fun. We do it in the evenings as well, so parents can go and get a date night, and that's been a really cool opportunity for my kids. I don't necessarily get the date night because I'm running the camp, but like I love seeing all the parents come back, happy and healthy and refreshed. So we run the camp like 5 to 8 p.m. over at the Erie Community Park, and like it's just a really cool week. So July 20th through the 23rd is when we'll be doing it. We still should have signups by the time this airs, and yeah, that's been a really cool rhythm for my kids as well.
It's important to be around other kids too that are exposed to spiritual wellness, so that they, they're just like, oh, it's not something just our family does. They see it amongst their peers, and that it's normalized, I think, there too.
Yeah. Well, and it just gives them the verbiage. If anything, again, being a Spanish teacher, I learned so much of what I have to do is just give people words so they can actually express what's inside. So for my kids, just giving them like whatever, at least this is what church and community has done for us, is it's like given them the words to where they can say like, oh, Dad, I'm feeling really like at peace, Dad, I'm feeling like that. I'm not very patient right now. Why wasn't I very patient? They're using the good kind of words to describe what's actually going on mentally and in their spirit and in their heart. So it's been really good to kind of like give them the verbiage to just express it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that I appreciated about Orchard Community Church is it offers so much more support than just like a Sunday service. So whether it's, like you said, the kids programming, marriage support, grief support, singles groups, or the line dancing at the farmers market, there's a lot of ways for people to connect because there's a lot of things going on in our lives. People are dealing with lots of things, whether it's inside a marriage, whether it's grieving the loss of something or someone. So how do you get people involved? And what would you say to someone who's curious about, but also nervous about taking that first step?
Yeah. Well, I will say one of the very first steps that a lot of people take is orchardcommunity.church/groups. They find a group. And I know we have like grief share listed on there. Our church has exploded through grief share. We've got so many people that are just finding healing and hope after the loss of a loved one. It's funny in Erie, you have all the young families, but all the grandmas and grandpas are also moving to Erie. And like sometimes that move doesn't go really well. And sometimes you leave one behind, or they're moving because they lost a husband or because they lost a wife. And so I've seen a lot of really cool fruits come out of grief share, and that's listed at, again, orchardcommunity.church/groups. There's so many opportunities there. There's so many other groups that are available there. You can also find information on our website, and you can just kind of poke around there. We've got a newsletter you can sign up for as well, and we advertise a lot of our different opportunities there. But there's so many things going on. Church is more than just a 1 hour a week thing. If it's just a once a week thing, I think you're missing out on what it really could be. There's lots of cool groups that meet throughout the week for kids, for singles, for just about every age and stage. We've got lots of opportunities for you. So poke around the website. I think you'll find it.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for just sharing all the things that you have going on at Orchard Community Church. Thank you to all of you for listening. I hope today's conversation encouraged you to slow down, reflect, and think about how you're caring for your own spiritual well-being. If this episode encouraged you, please consider sharing it with a family member or a friend who might need to hear it. And if you're enjoying the Erie Wellness Podcast, leaving a rating or review is one of the biggest ways that you can help people in our community discover these conversations. Jeff, thanks so much for being here and for sharing your heart with our community today.
Yeah, no, thank you again, Lauren. It's just such an honor, and I just feel super blessed to be a part of what you're doing here. It's really cool. Good job.
Thank you. All right, friends, before we wrap up, here's the part I need to share. This podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. I'm just your friend behind the mic. Nothing shared on this podcast creates a patient relationship with any of our guests or replaces the guidance of your physician, professional coach, or other qualified expert. And the views shared by guests are entirely their own and don't necessarily reflect the beliefs or values of the Erie Wellness Podcast. My goal is to simply create a space for real, open conversations that help us all learn, grow, and feel a little more connected on our wellness journeys. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you back here next time.